Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered why sometimes words just tumble out wrong, or why you suddenly freeze mid-sentence? Well, this new study dives deep into the fascinating world of disfluencies, those little hiccups in our speech, like ums, repetitions. And self-corrections. Think about it, we all do it. From a simple the ball to a well, I think these little pauses and stumbles are a normal part of how we talk. But scientists are really interested in them because they're like a secret window into how our brains plan and produce speech. They also affect how others see us, making us seem less sure or less competent sometimes, even if that is not true. So, understanding why we have these disfluencies is a big deal for understanding how we communicate. This paper is all about trying to build a clear picture of where these disfluencies come from. It points out that different scientists have different ideas. Some think disfluencies are just simple mistakes, while others believe they might actually be used on purpose to signal something to the listener, like, hey, I need a moment here. The big question is whether these are just accidental byproducts of our brain trying to talk, or if there is more to it. This research team wanted to create a unified explanation, a kind of roadmap for how all these different pieces fit together. So, the researchers looked at tons of existing studies. They wanted to understand what a disfluency actually is, how our brain's monitoring system, the part that checks our speech for errors, plays a role, and how problems at different stages of speech production might lead to different kinds of stumbles. Finally, they proposed a new framework which they call MONET, for monitoring for error and time to explain this whole process. Let's start with what counts as a disfluency. It is more than just saying, You've got repetitions like the car, insertions like it is like a really good idea, deletions where you cut off a word, and even pauses. Some researchers even include things like false starts where you begin saying something and then completely change your mind and start over. It is interesting to see how different fields look at this. Psycholinguistics, for example, tries to figure out why disfluencies happen by manipulating things in experiments. Corpus linguistics looks at how disfluencies appear in real conversations. Speech pathology might look at disfluencies as signs of certain conditions. And even computer science working on voice assistants needs to understand them. But for the most part, they're talking about typical speech versus more severe disfluencies, like those seen in stuttering. Now, not every pause is a disfluency. Our speech naturally has pauses for breathing or to mark grammatical points. The key to telling a disfluent pause apart is often its duration and where it happens. A quick pause for breath isn't a disfluency, but a long, awkward silence in the middle of a thought. That is more likely to be seen as a sign of trouble. Some researchers even say that a pause is disfluent if it happens in a place where it doesn't naturally fit grammatically. The paper then dives into different theories about why we have disfluencies. One big idea is the covert repair hypothesis. This suggests that our brain has a system that catches speech errors before we even say them. If it catches an error late, it can cause a stumble like a repetition or a pause as the brain tries to fix it. It is like catching a typo just as you hit send. Then there is the vicious circle hypothesis, which says that some people's monitoring system is just a bit too sensitive. It flags tiny imperfections as errors, and the constant effort to fix these imagined problems actually causes disfluencies. Imagine having a super anxious editor constantly second-guessing every word you write. Some models, like the Diva model, focus more on the physical act of speaking, looking at how our motor system controls our speech muscles. They suggest that problems in coordinating these movements, especially when relying too much on listening to ourselves, can lead to disfluencies. Another interesting approach is conflict-based accounts. These suggest that when our brain is trying to decide between two words or ideas, and both are strongly activated, it creates a conflict signal. This conflict can lead to errors, and the monitoring system then tries to fix them, potentially causing a disfluency. Then we have the idea that disfluencies are communicative signals. This theory, championed by researchers like Clark, suggests that things like and aren't just mistakes. They're signals to the listener that the speaker is planning something complex, is about to announce a delay, or needs a moment to think. They're like little traffic cones for the listener's attention. Another important model is explan. This one focuses on the timing between planning what you want to say and actually saying it. If you are trying to speak too fast or the word you need is taking too long to plan, execution might overtake planning, leading to a disfluency. It suggests that some disfluencies are simply built-in stall tactics to buy time for planning. The paper then meticulously examines how different levels of speech production can lead to different types of disfluencies. For instance, if you are struggling to come up with the right idea or message that is conceptualizing, studies show this can lead to more filled pauses like especially if the topic is new or complex. Then there is lexical access. This is about finding the right word. If there are many similar words or you are having trouble retrieving the exact one, you might pause more or make self-corrections. Attention and timing are also huge factors. When you are trying to do too many things at once, or when you are under pressure, your speech can become less fluent. The research shows that while errors might increase when attention is divided, disfluencies don't always decrease, which is quite puzzling. So, after reviewing all this, the authors propose their own framework, MONET. It tries to bring together the best ideas. It says that planning and execution of speech overlap, meaning we plan the next word while saying the current one. MONET's key ideas are 1. Planning and execution of speech happen at the same time. 2. Speech starts when a word's activation reaches a certain level. If it is not ready, we stall with pauses or repetitions. 3. Our brain keeps checking for conflicts even after we start speaking. If a conflict is found, we might interrupt or repair. 4. The type of disfluency depends on when a problem is detected relative to when we start speaking. If it is detected early, we stall. If it is detected late, we interrupt and repair. 5. Filled pauses like happen when nothing else is ready to be said. And might be a weaker version of Imagine your brain is like a complex computer. MONET suggests that when two options for what to say are battling it out, that is conflict monitoring. And this battle is detected very soon after you start speaking a word. You might interrupt and switch to the other option. This could sound like a broken word or a quick repair. If the problem is that the next word isn't ready in time for you to speak it, you'll stall. This could mean repeating a word you just said or just pausing. This is where Explan's idea of needing time to plan really comes into play. MONET tries to explain filled pauses like by suggesting they're like a default response that only comes out when your brain can't find a specific word to say and nothing else is active enough to be repeated. It is like the brain defaulting to a filler sound when the main processing is stuck. So, the type of disfluency we produce, according to MONET, is a mix of three things. How much conflict there is in our brain between different ideas or words, when that conflict is noticed compared to when we start speaking, and how high the threshold is for selecting a word. The really cool part is that this MONET model isn't just theoretical. The researchers believe it can explain actual patterns seen in studies. For example, they point to research where the same conceptual update led to fluent speech, a filled pause, or an overt repair depending on when new information became available. This strongly supports MONET's idea that timing is crucial. They even suggest how to test this model further. For example, they predict that if you make speech planning harder and make people speak faster, you'll see a lot more disfluencies. But if you slow down their speech rate, it might lessen the impact of the planning difficulty. Looking ahead, they think MONET could be extended to understand how disfluencies change as we age or when we have different cognitive abilities. They suggest that changes in things like memory or attention might affect the parameters of the MONET model, like how quickly our brain activates words or how sensitive its conflict detector is. In the end, this paper gives us a really comprehensive look at disfluencies. It moves beyond just saying people stumble when they can't find words to proposing a detailed mechanistic account of how and why different stumbles happen. It highlights that disfluencies aren't just random errors. They're often the result of complex timing, monitoring, and conflict resolution processes in our brain. What is really important is that MONET focuses on the automatic processes. It suggests that even if listeners interpret disfluencies as signals, they might be produced automatically without the speaker intentionally trying to communicate difficulty. This is a crucial distinction for understanding the underlying mechanics. So, next time you find yourself saying or repeating a word, remember it is a complex dance happening inside your brain. This research gives us a powerful new framework for understanding that dance, showing how our minds juggle planning, execution, and constant error checking to produce the amazing, sometimes imperfect, flow of human speech. What do you all think about this? Does it make sense of your own speech patterns? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this fascinating, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more science breakdowns, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the human mind. Thanks for watching.